Hello and welcome to our review of the Nespresso Gran Lattissima coffee machine. Now, just to start off, this machine does come in black and white, and had I have purchased this machine again, I would have gone with the white one, and I think you should do too if it goes at all with your kitchen, just because this is the black one after a mere 24 hours, very dusty, and it reflects light a lot from the top, so the dust can be seen very clearly. Now, let's get to the unboxing. Now, like all other Nespresso coffee machines, it comes with 14 different capsules complimentary in the box. And we also obviously get the milk container that connects onto the machine and provides the milk for your drinks. You can place this in the fridge once you put milk in it for up to 2 days. You also get the platform, so if you're making an espresso, for example, you can put it on top of the platform so the coffee doesn't travel as far and splash out of the cup. You get a removable tray, and this is something that you will need to be cleaning quite a bit. We'll get back to this a little bit later on and talk about how the machine tends to drip quite a fair bit. The platform has little grooves on the bottom which slide onto the grill, and this stops it from moving about. Around the back, you have the water tray. You connect the milk container by simply sliding along this little compartment here. And the point for this is if you're not using milk for your machine, you can leave the milk container off completely. The only options that will light up on top of your machine will be the ones that are for coffee without any sort of milk. Once you connect the milk container, the rest of the options on top of the machine will actually light up. At the top, you've got the lights, which will warn you when you need to descale the machine or clean the machine. And then to the left is where you put in your coffee capsule. And once you've put in your capsule, it drops down to this compartment down here, and you can lift the top part out. It has a few holes that will allow anything that's dripping from the actual coffee capsule to go into the container below, and then you can just empty and wash that. The milk container has 3 options at the top. One is for a clean, one is for making your coffees, and the other one is an eject symbol, which allows you to take the top part of it off for cleaning. When you first plug in the machine, the cleaning light will be on. Inside the box, you get this little strip which you run under the tap and it will tell you how hard your water is. You then need to put that into the machine. As you can see, we've got pretty much all 4 squares have turned pink, which means the water in this part of London is very hard. So therefore, we're going to refer to the manual, and the manual will tell us if you've got 4 pink boxes, you need to click the cafe latte button. If you've got 3, you click the hot milk button, and so forth. It's a little bit confusing, a little bit complex, and you definitely need the manual to revert to know exactly what buttons you need to press in order to program the hardness of your water into the machine. Now let's get started and make our first cup of coffee. So we're going to attach the milk container, and then as you can see, the milk options do light up, and then we're going to put it on the option to make coffees. I'm going to start off with a very popular choice of milk these days, seems to be almond milk. I'm also going to try it with oat milk and the kind of milk that's recommended inside the manual, which is semi-skimmed or skimmed milk for best froth. This is what the manual itself recommends. So let's start with almond milk, just so you can see what kind of froth you can expect to get from the machine. We're going to put in the option to make a cappuccino. I will say one thing, I was pretty surprised at how well this machine does when using milk alternatives, despite the fact that the manual says the machine is not designed for and it is not recommended that you use milk alternatives. I think it did fairly well, and it created a fair amount of froth. Definitely a plus for those who prefer non-dairy milk. So we have our first cappuccino here using almond milk, and that's a decent amount of froth. The one thing I did notice right away though is that it does still drip milk. Various alternatives to this machine, which are all-in-one units, all have this issue. This also has this issue, which we'll come back to. Next, we're going to use semi-skimmed milk. This is the type of milk that the manual recommends that we use. So let's pop in another one of our complimentary capsules and let's get this thing going. I've slowed this down just so you can see. It tends to start off by pouring a little water through first before it actually uses the milk. And I assume this is to clear out the pipes, but the problem is that the water kind of goes back and sprays a little bit onto the actual drip tray itself. The milk takes around 30 to 35 seconds to heat up and dispense, and we found that the temperatures every time we made the milk were different by as much as 5 degrees. I've read online some other people finding a temperature difference of as much as 7 degrees. You do get more froth with dairy milk. I think that's to be expected. And again, the taste was a little bit burnt. So we're going to put in our next cup, and as you can see on the left, it kind of sprays the milk out of the cup, and it actually went onto the back of the machine, which meant I had to wipe down the machine afterwards. Again, the previous version to this coffee machine also had the same issues. This type of milk that I'm using right now is oat milk. This produced the least amount of froth, and the quality of froth was not the best. It's oat milk, so what do you expect? So let's go make a cup of just milk here with froth. I want to see how this does in terms of creating froth, because previous all-in-one machines by Nespresso, the froth has been not very good on it, to say the least, compared to Nespresso's other machines where you either get a one to make your froth or you get a separate milk frother altogether. But this, I was very, very surprised. Very good quality froth, and quite a lot of it. I think you'll see that by the time I get to the end of the froth, the top half of the cup contained quite a bit of froth, and I was very impressed with that. So another plus. And let's just make a normal cup of coffee just so we can see the kind of crema you get. Making a cup of coffee takes about 40 to 45 seconds for the machine to heat up, and then from there it takes just under 20 seconds to pour an Americano. We also found that the 19 bars of pressure advertised is inconsistent pretty much throughout. When I first tasted this cup of coffee, I thought to myself, does this taste burnt or is it just me? So I went to the shops and I purchased some more of the same capsules. Now, admittedly, my sample size was pretty small. It was a sample size of 5. And I had other people taste this coffee compared to an Espresso Citiz. I made the same cup of coffee, I lined them up side by side, and 3 out of the 5 people that I let taste the coffee did mention that one tasted considerably more burnt than the other. And I do think that this is a little bit of an issue with this machine. I have actually looked online and it seems quite a few other people have also made this comment. Now, this is an Americano. As you can see, it's half filled the cup. Now, the good thing is, if you want a full-size cup, you can program not just the coffee, you can also program the milk. So if you're making a cappuccino and you prefer more milk, more froth, more coffee, less coffee, you can program that into the machine and it memorizes this. It keeps it in the memory for next time you make it. Over here, you'll see that it's dripping. The drip goes on for quite a while. So when you've removed your cup of coffee, you kind of need to clean this quite often. The milk drips quite a bit as well, and it also spurts out everywhere. The other negative is that I only had this for 24 hours before I filmed this part of the video. And as you can see, it is scratched up already, and I don't know how. I've been super careful with this thing, but I guess maybe also the fact that this is the black model will make the scratches more apparent in reflections. Water is still spurt everywhere, and so is the milk. Sometimes it pumps out a little bit of water before milk. I assume, again, this is to clean the pipes. But unfortunately, it pours milk onto the back of the machine, and it pours water down the drip tray and sometimes milk down the drip tray. So once you've taken your cup of coffee, you do usually need to go back and just wipe it down. My other big issue with this machine is the process of cleaning. Now, this is where I think the advantages of having an all-in-one machine that does everything for you are pulled back, so to speak, because you then spend more than the amount of times you've saved in terms of cleaning this machine. The milk compartment comes apart in numerous pieces. Now, the manual does recommend that after every single use, you either put this in the dishwasher. Now, it's just me and my wife living in this house. We barely run the dishwasher because there's not enough people to make it worth our while. But the alternative is doing what the manual says, and that's washing it and then leaving it to soak in hot water for 30 minutes before taking it out to dry it. I usually get up in the mornings, get ready for work, make my cup of coffee and leave. I don't want to have it in the back of my mind that I need to leave it in the sink the entire day, or that alternatively I need to give it 30 minutes, take it out and then put it into the drying rack. Whereas if you look at my Nespresso Citiz machine, for example, this is the process of cleaning the milk frother for that. You literally rinse it out, run a sponge over it, and you're done within 10 to 15 seconds. Whereas with this machine, you need to take apart the numerous pieces, you need to run them under water, put them in something to soak in for 30 minutes, and then take them out to dry or come back at the end of the day. My only worry with that is, will it over time cause any discoloration to the black plastic, for example, leaving it in the sink the entire day? If not, you need to make sure that you've set yourself a little reminder that after 30 minutes, you can make sure that you take everything out and dry it. And this is something that only you can answer. If you're someone who works at home and you don't have a problem doing this, and you also don't mind the fact that you need to wipe it down because it spurts milk onto the back of the machine and onto the drip tray, and also the nozzle that puts out the coffee also drips for quite a bit of time once you've taken your cup of coffee away. Are these drawbacks enough for you not to have this machine? Only you can answer that. Personally, I don't want to make a cup of coffee and then think in the back of my mind, okay, 30 minutes, I've got to go back and I've got to take this out and I've got to put it all to dry before I leave to go to work. I don't want to think about it like that. Personally, I'm going to stick to my Nespresso Citiz and Virtuo machines. The Nespresso Citiz, as you've seen, very easy to clean, takes 10 to 15 seconds. It's done, you don't even need to think about it. Whereas with this machine, you've got to come back to it after every clean. That and the fact that the coffee does seem to have a little bit of a burnt taste to it. Now, I know what you're thinking, maybe this was just our machine. I actually went to the Nespresso store today and asked them to make me a cup of coffee using that machine and the Nespresso Citiz. And again, I tasted them both side by side and it was quite noticeable that the coffee had more of a burnt taste with this. So on a closing note, I'd say if you're stuck on what to do with this machine, get it from somewhere that has a good returns policy and try it out and then return it if it's too much of a faff. Thank you for watching. If you found this in any way helpful, please leave a like and a subscribe. That would really mean a lot to us. Thank you and have a lovely rest of your day.